Mr. Toastmaster, and thank you, Mr. Evaluator, for such a warm introduction as well. For those that don't know me, I originate from a little country by the name of Poland in Eastern Europe. You may have heard of Poland in history classes, learning about World War II, about the invasion of Poland. But I'm not going to talk about that tonight because I want to uplift your spirits and not talk about war and misery and walls. I want to talk about the nicer parts of Poland, the parts of Poland that you may enjoy. If you know somebody Polish or you've been on a trip to Poland, you may enjoy some of the food you can get on the street. You may enjoy some of the art, the old churches, the old culture. Tonight, I want to educate while I uplift your spirits so that you have the desire to visit Poland and tell you a little bit about how the country has evolved and changed over the years. 37 years ago, I was born in what was the second largest city in Poland by the name of Łódź. And it's spelled very interestingly because they're all letters, part of an alphabet, but 3 of the 4 letters have funny things happening with them. So the L in Łódź has a big diagonal dash through it. The O has a big line through it. The D is normal, and the Z has a little dot on top. And L-O-D-Z is pronounced in Polish as Łódź, and it means sailboat in English translation. So I was born in Sterling Hospital in Łódź, and I lived there until I was about 3.5 years old. At which point, as a family, my parents decided we would be better off to have the freedom of speech so that we could all attend Toastmasters and talk about whatever we wanted. And so they decided, without telling their parents or anybody, that we were going to get in our small little Fiat, that's what we had for a car, and we just got on a ferry, even though we had round-trip tickets. We took the ferry from Poland to Sweden. And the plan was never to come back. But we ran into some interesting situations because we thought a great uncle that lived in Sweden would take us in. And as soon as we showed up and told him the plan that we're staying with you, he said, no, I have to go to the police. I have to turn you guys in. You can't do this. You can't be refugees and stay here, and I can't shelter you. So we lived in the woods, actually, for a year. And I love Sherry's speech in that there was a kid that wanted to be a garbage man in kindergarten because my dad, even though he had a master's degree, was a garbage collector. He worked on the streets and he collected garbage for under-the-table money so that we could live on potatoes and rice and apples in the woods about an hour outside of Stockholm. And my parents made us talk Polish because as a family we talked Polish. Nobody was really learning a whole lot of Swedish. And so with the entire time of me growing up as a child, I was exposed to the Polish language and the Polish food and the Polish culture. And so we had to talk in Polish at home since nobody could really speak English and talk back to us. So the ongoing joke was my parents would talk to us in Polish, and once we went to school and learned English, we'd always talk back in English. But over the years, I realized I liked my culture and I liked my heritage. And even though I was one of those kids that, just like those kids in Michigan, had to go probably to Polish school on Saturdays, I started to learn to appreciate that on Saturdays while other kids were out playing with their friends or playing video games on the Atari all day long, I was in a Polish school with a bunch of Polish kids, Polish nerdy kids just like me, and we'd learn poems in Polish, we'd learn how to sing in Polish, we would learn how to read little stories and learn about the culture and learn about some of the traditions. So being a Polish kid, I know it was different because there weren't many Polish kids in school. But I always cherished the various traditions and took forth with me that when I was 10 years old, I went back for a trip to Poland. That was the first time I had gone back since I was 3 when we left. And I had 5 cousins, all girls. So I quickly immersed into the culture, and probably 2 of the best things that ever happened to me in order to continue to speak the language. One was the 5 Polish female cousins that were into all the girly smut. They read their little magazines. There was a magazine called Dziewczyna, which means girl, and they had all the latest fashions and all the latest cool posters of cute, ridiculous boys to put in your locker or on your walls at home. So I convinced my mom to let me subscribe, even though it was a ridiculous amount of money, because I think shipping and handling was like $7 a month or something, to subscribe to that magazine so that I could continue to pretend I knew how to read Polish. So that was one thing that I thought was really helpful. The other was having grandparents that got older. So both of my parents had grandparents, and as they got older, the guilt also got stronger, and I had to write letters in Polish at Christmas and at birthdays, and so that also helped me retain the language, you know, at least to know how to say in Polish, please send money, right? I could learn that in Polish and to say that. I think of everything, though, from Poland, if you've never been, the food is very good. I think some people think it's a little bland, so stay away from the bland food. The best are the street vendors that sell bread with melted cheese and mushrooms on it. They call it a zapiekanka. So if you go to Poland, you need to get a zapiekanka. The other thing when you go to Poland is you need to check out the churches and the culture. Growing up in a very Catholic home, most of the Polish population, there's 30 million people that live in Poland, and over 90% of them practice the Roman Catholic faith. And in that religion, the previous Pope, Pope John Paul II, was Polish. If you didn't know that, he was from Krakow. And so religion is a very big thing, and for that reason, there are some of the most incredible churches in Poland. If you get a chance to go to a place named Częstochowa, you can climb up the stairs all the way to the top. It's one of the oldest churches in Eastern Europe and incredibly beautiful. And one of the other things I want to leave you with is Polish culture or custom, because you don't have to go to Poland. You can practice Polish culture here in your home in America. And one of the ways that we do this is when we set the table for dinner. This is especially a Polish culture during the holidays, but you always set the table for one extra person. And growing up, I always wondered, why am I setting the table for 6 when there's only 5 of us eating dinner? But the reason is that as a hospitable country and nation and people, you never know if somebody is going to knock on the door and you're going to have to invite them in and feed them. So you always set the table for one extra place in case there's somebody coming by unexpectedly, or Santa Claus needs to stop and eat before dropping off your gift. But that is a Polish culture. So whether you go to Poland or from home, I invite you to learn more about Poland in your free time. Mr. Toastmaster.